Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Pluralsight Spotlight. I'm your host for this episode, Adam Gunn. Our Spotlight series is a chance to meet some of the incredible people that make the Pluralsight brand awesome. We're going to dive into their backstories and hopefully share some fun experiences and insights that will help make you just a little bit better at whatever you're doing today. I'm excited to chat with Jillian Kaplan today. Jillian works at a large enterprise company where she has global responsibility for ensuring service providers can monetize their investments in 5G through future enterprise use cases. She is a longtime telecom industry veteran. Jillian spent 14 years at Verizon. She joined network engineering during the launch of fiber networks, where she managed over $1 billion in inventory in the central offices. While she worked, she received a technical MBA. I've learned that Jillian is an avid equestrian, riding horses since she was 7, and is definitely team dog, having fostered over 100 dogs with her family. And she's neurodivergent, which, if we get a chance, we'll dive into in the conversation today. Jillian, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Pluralsight Spotlight today.
Thanks. Really happy to be here. Excited to chat.
So we love to start these spotlight episodes with just a little bit of a journey down memory lane. We love to hear individuals' backstories, what got them into tech, and how you found your voice as a creative and technical thought leader. So give us a snapshot of that.
Sure. So both my parents worked in STEM growing up, so it was never something that I questioned whether I could or couldn't do. My first job was in network engineering, and then from there I moved into a product management type role and into marketing operations, which in transparency was way too many spreadsheets for me. I'm like, this is not for me. And eventually came over to product marketing and then thought leadership, which is where I focus now. And it's been a really cool journey because I'm pretty technical and I have that technical background. And I remember when I went for my MBA, I was like, oh, like I really want to get into advertising. And then, like, very quickly, I realized I wasn't quite that creative. Like, I was like, I need something more creative than engineering, but not quite like advertising level. And that's when I found product management and then into product marketing. And it's been a really exciting journey for me to sort of embrace my technical background. But my superpower is that I can message the technology out in such a way that's consumable, but people that understand the technology know that I know what I'm talking about. People that don't understand the technology can still follow along. So it's a little bit about my background and journey. It's been really, like I said, exciting to sort of see my creative mind and my technical mind come together to start storytelling and lead the thought leadership here.
I'd love to follow that up with how did that career trajectory bring you to the Pluralsight author community? How did you find Pluralsight, and tell us a little bit about your course library?
That's a really great story, actually. So I found Pluralsight in March of 2020 at the very beginning of COVID. And I had taken a public speaking course in January of 2020 and had gotten some pretty clear feedback that I needed to work on my presentation skills. And my boss at the time was like, you need to get in front of more people. And then COVID hit. And I was like, who am I getting in front of? Right? Like there was no one to get in front of. So I started kind of looking for opportunities in transparency to figure out like how I could work on my presentation skills, whether it be the creative side, the slide creation, which we do at Pluralsight, or the presentation side, which obviously we also do as well, like with the content and the teaching. And that's when I found the Pluralsight opportunity. It came through my email on like some sort of remote opportunity job description board. And I remember applying and interviewing and then going through sort of the like you have to submit all your samples. And I was accepted. And I can't remember the person's name that accepted me, but sort of after the fact, I found out it was like, pretty cool to get accepted. Like at the time, like I said, I was just looking for opportunities for myself. So I had no idea that, 3 years later, I'd still be able to be creating courses and have met some amazing people and sort of built the course library that I have. So that's been really exciting. And it was kind of on a whim, and I'm sure glad that I found it.
Yeah. That story took an interesting turn for me, because if I heard you right, you had a boss that identified some skill gaps or some places you could improve. You didn't just go watch courses on becoming a better public speaker. You're like, well, I'm going to go apply to teach a course on these types of soft skills to technologists, got accepted. And do you feel like those skills have improved?
Oh, 1,000%. Like now I speak in front of massive audiences on panels and giving presentations, which is something that I could have never done before. Right. So it's been huge for me to learn how to teach and how to communicate. Also, just the PowerPoint skills that I've learned in putting together like the slides and the slide creation. So, as much as I help people, with their career and their learning, Pluralsight has helped me with, to your point, a skill gap that I had in my career and my learning.
That's awesome. And your courses on Pluralsight cover a variety of topics ranging from technical skills, DEI, innovation, virtual communication. Um, I'm curious what you would highlight in your anthology of courses and what sets a Jillian Kaplan course apart from, say another course or another, platform where you could go learn these things.
I think that's a great question. And I think sometimes people look at my course library and they're like, this girl's teaching on emerging technology and diversity. Like, what the heck is going on here? But I'm a big believer that DE&I and inclusion and innovation, especially, is everyone's job, even if it's not in your title. I don't believe that corporations can achieve their DE&I goals unless everyone participates. So, I would say for me, some of the highlights have been around my DE&I courses, just because I think they're so incredibly important. And honestly, they're my most watched courses. I'm very good at having those tough conversations around, stereotypes and things you should and shouldn't say, and those uncomfortable conversations. But I can also teach you about, 5G or innovation. And I think that's really what actually does set me apart, is that I don't just teach on something specific. I can teach on a wide variety of things that I've been able to implement in my own career.
That's awesome. I'd love to get your perspective on a few of these areas of expertise. Let's start with innovation. You've had a front row seat to the emergence of a lot of new tech throughout your career. And one of your courses highlights the importance of innovation and how to foster innovation for good. Tell us a little bit about that and what should leaders and technologists have at the forefront of their mind as they see this happening in real time.
Yeah, that's a great question. And my course is actually an executive briefing, which makes it really short and really consumable for executives. Because while innovation can start with, the people, sort of the worker bee type people, it can't get anywhere without executive buy-in. And it's incredibly important for executives to foster a culture of innovation. That's what I found as an employee. I've been in roles where people are like, "Hey, Jillian, like that's not your job. Go count your beans." And that doesn't make me want to come up with more ideas. But when your ideas are actually listened to, and I'm not saying every idea needs to be accepted, but what I cover in the course is how you keep an open mind, how you listen to people, how you help people understand if their ideas are going to work, how to take calculated risks. I'm not saying like something crazy out in left field, but how to be a little bit crazy, because that's really how companies can see that massive growth in the future is with innovation. Sure, you can make like small incremental things and that might keep you on a, okay business trajectory. But if you want to see massive growth and you want to see things change, especially in technical corporations, you have to take those risks. And if you're not fostering innovation sort of from the top down and saying, like, I want to hear your ideas, you're not going to hear anyone's ideas. And that innovation as a leader is going to fall all on you, which a lot of leaders really don't have the bandwidth for. So it really talks about how to dig into sort of your organization and help them understand that you want to listen, and that innovation is sort of the key to driving forward. And I'm super passionate about that because I have a lot of crazy ideas. And, sometimes they're like, Jillian, you've lost it. Like, we're not doing that. But most of the time, they'll at least hear me out and let me give it a shot. And most of the time, I'm successful. And that's how the innovation building an innovation engine, right, for it to continue. I'm not just talking about engineering innovation, marketing innovation, product management innovation. Like there are so many different ways in which you can innovate.
When it feels like generative AI and chat GPT have just been this flux of lightning rod of that type of energy. Every organization, not just tech companies, are trying to figure out how relevant is this? How much do I make it part of my technology roadmap? And it's impacting roles at every level from HR to marketing. I'm curious if you have any hot takes on what's going on with generative AI and maybe what you kind of see in terms of how organizations are channeling that innovation opportunity.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's affecting everyone in every organization and will. And I think if we can partner with it the correct way, it can help. It can really help that innovation engine. Um, but I think it has to be about partnering and not like just giving over the reins because it's not perfect. Um, so that's sort of, I guess, my hot take is that it's going to be a partner tool. And if used properly, it can really help move the innovation engine forward.
That's awesome. I want to switch gears a little bit. You have a course uh, on individuals building their virtual intelligence, and I'm going to plead a little bit of English. Like I found that term fascinating, but it was new to me. Like I hadn't heard of virtual intelligence. Give the audience your definition of virtual intelligence and why it's so critical for them to be thinking about building their own.
So, virtual intelligence is really around learning how to communicate and interact with people that aren't in the same room as you. And many of us worked remote pre COVID, during COVID, post COVID. And if you don't have that virtual intelligence, that remote work environment is not going to be great for you. And, I know that people are typing things quickly on IM or shooting out fast emails or multitasking or whatever, but really understanding like how to properly communicate. And a lot of the course touches on when to pick up the phone, right? Like we forget the phone is a thing sometimes because we're doing so many things at once. But really understanding how to communicate virtually to have a successful work environment and to build relationships. Like, there are people that got hired in the middle of COVID and perhaps didn't meet their teams for years or still haven't met their teams. So, how do you build those relationships? And I can say I built some pretty amazing relationships virtually, which I feel like sort of makes me a good candidate to teach this course. I also I recommend always using your voice because I think things can be easily misinterpreted when you're typing. So, I use the voice option on Teams all the time. I'm sure my team is always like, oh, here she goes again. Like, she's got something big to say. But it focuses on how to communicate and build relationships, not in the same room as someone else, which is a skill that everyone has to have.
Is there a correlation between virtual intelligence and that neurodivergence that we talked about?
I don't know. Perhaps. I mean, I write everything down because I don't remember a whole lot. I have a traumatic brain injury. But I guess maybe, I mean, I'm more conscious of what I say and how I say it. That could be a strong possibility for sure. It's something I never really thought about, but good question.
The thing that seems to be a charged topic is like cameras on or cameras off. Do you have guidance on
Mm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if I'm speaking, my camera is almost always on for me. Unless I'm like, telling them like, hey, I'm eating lunch or like something like that. And then smaller meetings, my camera always in one-on-ones, my camera is on. And smaller meetings, my camera's on. But if I'm on a call with like 40 people or something, I'm probably only going to turn my camera on when I'm speaking. Um, and I think it's hard too a little bit because it's like follow the pack, but then if no one turns it on, then no one's going to turn it on. So that's sort of the guidance that I personally use. Smaller meetings and one-on-ones always, larger meetings, yes, if you're speaking. But if you're not speaking, you're in a large meeting, please leave yourself on mute. How many times have we said either you are muted and you're trying to talk or Jillian, mute your mic. You're So,
I
yeah.
think we got a lot better. We had enough failures and successes through COVID that we've gotten somewhat better. But yeah, there's still always that one person. Let's kind of wrap our conversation by that area. I know you're very passionate about DE&I. Obviously, a sensitive and charged topic right now. There's a lot going on in the media around it. I'm curious what guidance, we don't have hours to dive in, unfortunately, but what guidance would you give? What would be your, you know, that salient thought that you would hope leaders and engineering teams would have around DE&I?
I'll start off by saying inclusion's not difficult. It's not hard to include people. And if you can build an inclusive community, you're going to be fine. But everyone makes it out to be like this big difficult thing, and it's not difficult. It's not difficult to be inclusive. And just because you're including others doesn't mean it's taking away from someone else. Like, this is not a pie and there's only a certain amount of slices. And I'm a strong believer in that. So I would say, like, just building an inclusive environment, making sure that you're interviewing diverse candidates, right? So not just saying like, oh yeah, we need to, so and so should do it, but it's not for me. Like, you need to take the ownership of it. If you're not a hiring manager, maybe mentoring someone that is underrepresented in your industry or in your job function. That's something that I'm big on, helping people find their voice, making people feel more comfortable and welcome. There's so many different ways to do that, but I'll go back to diversity, equity, and inclusion is everyone's job. And if only the people that hold those titles are working on it, it's not going to work. You've got to have everyone on board. And that starts again, just like, innovation, it starts at the top. And it's really important that leaders foster, an environment where everyone, regardless, feels included and like they're being heard. So that's, you have to speak up. Like, for me, I'll speak up if, I'm like, hey, I see this picture that, is only has men in it or only has women or whatever. Like, we need to make sure that if we're sharing these kind of things that there is representation, because people see these pictures and they think like, oh, there's no one that looks like me in this photo. I can't do that job. So we need to do a better job of making sure that what we share shows inclusion and diversity.
I'll play the role of skeptic, but if someone were to say, I don't think watching Jillian's DE&I course is gonna help me build a better and more inclusive culture within my company, like how would you counter them?
I think that my course really opens people's eyes to things that we subconsciously do, right? Unconscious bias. Um, and helps people understand that bias is human. We all have bias. But if you recognize it, you can at least sort of, I don't want to say fix it, but you can course correct. I remember for me, I had a woman reach out to me who was in Egypt. And my first thought was, she worked at a large corporation. My first thought was, I didn't know women in Egypt could work. That was my first thought, okay? And that is an unconscious bias. And when I spoke to her on the phone, I said that to her. I was like, I had no idea women in Egypt. Automatically thought the Middle East, women can't work, right? And she's like, Jillian, I feel like everyone thinks that, but you're the only one that actually has ever said it. And that's because, like, I'm willing to say, like, hi, I'm not perfect. I can uncover these unconscious bias. And that's okay because I'm addressing it and learning how to be better. So, I think people think like, "Oh, I'm fine, there's not a problem," but my course really dives into sort of how to uncover these bias, that we all have them and that you're not a bad human for having them.
I think that's awesome. Well, to wrap up these conversations, hard right hand turn here. We like to ask a bunch of random, just fun questions, get to know you a little better. Um, Maybe we'll get some fun things for the social media at some point. So if you're game, I'm just going to
Sure.
throw a bunch of hot take, short answer questions your way, and we'll see what comes of it. You ready?
Yep.
This first question always gets people. If you could switch legs with any animal, what would it be?
Horse.
That makes sense based on your bio. Um,
Yeah, they're fast and agile.
yeah, I think you're the first horse, so that's good. It's such a range. Do you have a secret talent?
Do I have a secret talent? No, I'm not really that like secretly talented, I guess. I have to think about that one.
Okay, we'll think about that one. Favorite pizza topping?
Probably mushrooms.
What did you want to become when you were a kid?
I never had any idea. Someone asked me that recently, and I was like, I never had any idea what I wanted to become, but I'm happy with the path that I've taken, I'll say.
Nice. Anything in particular you're reading right now?
Um, and now I can't. Here we go, neurodivergent. I can't remember the name of the book. My boss sent me this book on. It's basically like I think it's like a marketing outrageously. It's called. It has this big sumo wrestler on the cover, and I'm actually my second time through it, and I love it because it really puts like innovation at the forefront and makes my crazy ideas seem a little bit less crazy.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite vacation destination?
Vermont. I love Vermont.
Okay.
So
We,
not exciting, but lovely.
and I think we already know the answer to this one from your bio. We always ask team cat or team dog. Team dog?
Dog.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. I don't need something that poops in the house. I'm good. Like that's my team dog
Okay,
answer.
there you go. Jillian, thanks so much for enduring our questions and joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been a pleasure having you in the spotlight. To our guests, check out our show notes. We'll have links to Jillian's courses and any other references from the show today. We hope you'll follow, subscribe, and review this series. And we look to have you back again in a future episode of Pluralsight Spotlight.